Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Fantasy and Other Stuff podcast. I hope you're doing well, and I gotta start off once as always and say thank you to my patrons. You guys are incredible, and if you want to support the podcast, you can find me on Patreon. We're doing a book club on there right now. We're reading House of Leaves, and you can get some updates from me on there for that if you want to read that book. It's really cool. Also, there's other stuff on the Patreon, but that's currently what I'm mostly posting about on there, so that's what you have to look forward to if you join the Patreon. But anyways, let's get into the weekly reading update, which I have a lot of really cool stuff that I want to talk about this week. Before we get into anything, before we start any of the important actual reading stuff, okay? Here's what you're gonna have to do for me, all right? If you're listening, right? Yeah, all of you who are listening to the podcast, you're listening to my words. If you're not doing Barbenheimer, what are you doing with yourself? There's like 4 days left, and then Barbenheimer drops. If you don't know what Barbenheimer is, get with the times, okay? Barbie and Oppenheimer both come out on Friday, and you gotta go see it, okay? I'm assuming if you've been on the internet like at all, you've probably seen this, but I'm so excited for this. Okay, that's what the rest of my week is. Not the rest of my week. Okay, I take that back. My whole year has been building towards this ever since it was announced that Barbie and Oppenheimer were coming out on the same day. I think that was actually like a year ago. It's literally been like a year since that was announced. I have been looking forward to this day, and it's all I can think about right now, which is why I'm starting off the podcast with that, because I don't know, man. I don't know what it is. It's been so long since there's been like a big movie event, you know? Like, I can't think of the last time I was this excited to go see a movie. And it's not a franchise movie, too. I mean, Barbie is, it's obviously it's Barbie, but it's not like a Marvel or Star Wars movie. When was the last time that there was like a big movie event like this that wasn't Marvel or Star Wars? I can't think of one. And so I'm very excited because this is the kind of stuff I live for. I love going to the movies, and I love just like original blockbusters, having hype around them. So I'm very, very excited for this. And if you aren't doing it, you're missing out. It's going to be amazing. I assume. I'm going with some friends. It's going to be great. I'm kind of a little bit nervous, though, because I have to wait for them to get off work on the day that we're going. And that means we're seeing Oppenheimer at like 9:30. No, we're going at 10 o'clock, I think. We're going at a 10 o'clock showing to Oppenheimer. And that movie is 3 hours long. That's gonna be tough. Well, you know what? Actually, I should be fine. And you know why? Because I've been staying up till like 2 a.m. every single day because I'm a goddamn gremlin and I can't stop myself from doing stuff at night because right now I don't really have anything going on during the day. So it's been my sleep schedule isn't great. So maybe that won't be too bad. But anyways, if you aren't doing Barbenheimer, what are you doing? That's the point of this intro, okay? I am so excited for this. This is, oh my god, my hype levels are maximum. I'm ready to see Ryan Gosling as Ken, and I'm ready to see Cillian Murphy as the guy who created the nuclear bomb. Those are just the two most polar opposite things I could ever think of in my life. So, anyways, very excited for that. That's why I'm starting off with that, because that's my whole... I'm going to be talking about this next week. You wait. That's going to be top of the morning, top of the list. That's the priority number one. We're talking about Barbenheimer next week. But anyways, now we can get into the stuff that you're actually here for, which is what I'm reading, So the big thing, I think I had talked about this last week. I read the new secret project by Brandon Sanderson, which is Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. I was not going to read this originally. Originally, I was going to go straight into Jade Legacy, which I actually just started, and I will talk about that afterwards. But I realized that Yumi and the Nightmare Painter was coming out, so I downloaded it onto my Kindle because it's available on Kindle for everyone now. And oh man, it was fantastic, man. I'm honestly baffled. If you saw my TikTok about it, you'll understand what I mean. I didn't think that he was going to write another secret project that was up to par with Tress of the Emerald Sea. I just didn't think he was going to do it because that book was so good, and it felt like maybe he was just putting his best foot forward, with the secret projects. And he was just like trying to start off with like his strongest entry, which I could understand why he was doing that, to kind of generate more excitement for the rest of them. But that's not what he did at all. Yumi and the Nightmare Painter was excellent. I haven't read the second one. the second secret project, the Frugal Wizards, whatever guidebook to medieval England or whatever it's called. I didn't read that one yet because it's not Cosmere related, and I haven't really dipped my toe into anything non-Cosmere related of his work. So Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, though, was excellent. I don't want to say too much about it in case you haven't read it or you aren't really plugged into Sanderson's work, but here's the pitch I'll give you. If you like the movie Your Name by Makoto Shinkai, it's a Japanese anime movie. If you like that movie, you need to read this book. It is heavily inspired by that movie. There's a lot of parallel plot points, a lot of parallel emotional arcs being taken, and the way that the relationship between the two main characters develops is very similar. It's a great movie. If you haven't seen Your Name, you should definitely watch the movie. And the book, Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, was also... It was outstanding. And I think I like the movie more than I liked this book. And they're not the same thing. They are not the same thing. It is very much different. But in terms of plot, it's similar. That's not what I meant to say. Not plot. In terms of plot devices, that's the term I'm looking for. In terms of plot devices, it's very similar. But it's a wholly original world. Brandon Sanderson, he always does that, It's a wholly original world. It has its own magic system. It has like a little bit of lore in there. It has all sorts of cool world building and stuff. But for once, with the Brandon Sanderson work, the emphasis isn't actually on those things. The emphasis is on the relationship between the two main characters. Don't twist it. This is absolutely a romance book. At 100%, it is a romance with fantastical elements and with somewhat action. There's action at points in this book, but it's not action the way you normally think of action, especially in a Sanderson book, because normally the action in his books is, people with giant swords fighting monsters and using magic to fly through the sky and do cool shit like that, In this, it's not really fights at all. It's kind of just people running away from stuff and like defending themselves using a form of magic. It's not really action. It's more of just a sequence of excitement. That's more of the vibe, Fantastic book. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil anything in case you want to pick this up, but I give it high marks. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, which I didn't think I was going to when I started it. The first half is a little bit slow. It's a bit meandering at times, but the thing is, it's not that long. Like, it's not like a very long book, so if you just get through that first half, it really starts to ramp up in terms of narrative, and the payoff is just so good that looking back on the front half, I don't mind that it was slow and a bit meandering because it was taking its time to develop what was going on and to develop the characters and their arcs, because there is a pretty good payoff, and I almost cried reading this book. So I mean, it's good. It's got a really good payoff, and that's the thing with Sanderson's work. If the beginning or the middle is slow, the payoff is usually worth it so that you don't even mind. Another example of that I can think of is book 2 in Mistborn trilogy is Well of Ascension. Not a huge fan of that book. The ending, though, is a literal 10 out of 10. The beginning's strong for Well of Ascension, but the middle is somewhat of a slog. There's a lot of like politicking and just maneuvering, and there's like a whole character that's introduced that I didn't find super compelling, and I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's like a badly written book, but there was a point in the middle where I was struggling for a little bit, and then the end happened, and it just paid off so well, which is why I always trust Sanderson, because even if I'm not like super feeling the book that I'm in with him, the payoff's always going to be, I always know the payoff is going to be good. He knows how to write an ending. Just say one thing about him, he knows how to write a goddamn ending. Which, man, on that same route, man, Stormlight 5, he's trucking along on that. I keep up with his weekly updates. He's at like 60% now, and that's so exciting. I can't wait for that book. But enough about Brandon Sanderson, enough about Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. You should read that if you are a Sanderson fan, absolutely. Even if you saw the premise and you thought it wasn't for you, it probably is. You probably will enjoy it more than you think. But now, I really want to talk about Jade Legacy. I just started it a couple days ago when I finished Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. I haven't had a lot of time to read. Yesterday I was getting my tattoo worked on. If you're audio only, you can't see what I'm doing, but I got my tattoo worked on. I'm showing it on camera. It looks really cool. You can't see it super well right now because it's got it's all wrapped and there's plasma and ink in there and shit. But it's almost done. I'm almost done with this tattoo. I have to fill in this spot here on the back of my elbow. The straw hat symbol is gonna go there, and then there's just this. I have to fill in this line right here, and Ace's tattoo is gonna go right next to that. This is so off track, but that's what I was doing yesterday, and I couldn't really read because I was in a chair for 7-8 hours. It takes a long time to do a half sleeve. It takes a lot longer than I thought it was going to take. So yesterday I was busy all day, and then I was just exhausted when I got home, and I didn't really want to read. But I'm like 150 pages into that book, which, by the way, it is so much bigger than I thought it was. It is a really big book. I went to Barnes & Noble, and I picked this book up. So I read the first 2 books on my Kindle. And the reason I did that was because my mom bought them, and we share a Kindle account, and she did not like these books. So she read the first one, thought it was okay, and then she didn't finish the second book. But she already owned it, so I read them on Kindle, and then I've been loving them, so I didn't want to, buy... it's connected to her credit card, the Kindle account, so I didn't want to buy the third book in a trilogy that she's never gonna read using her money, you know? So I went and bought the actual physical book at Barnes & Noble, and I got to see just how big the books are in real life. They're way bigger than... I read both the first 2 books in 5-6 days, which is, that's not slow. Reading a book in under a week is pretty good. And I didn't realize they're both 600 pages long. That's kind of crazy. That's a really fast pace for me. And this book's 700 something pages, and it's just way thicker than I thought it was going to be. But I'm about 150 pages into it. It's, oh my God, it's so good. I mean, I say this about a lot of authors, but not every author is this way, where they seemingly improve with every book they put out. And so far in this trilogy, Fonda Lee has improved with every single book. I mean, I'm only 150 pages in. I can't speak for the whole thing, but it's been some of her most compelling storytelling, and it's still really just the intro to the book that I'm in right now. And it's just, already she's dealt so many blows with the character arcs and just stirred the pot, and just, it's explosion after explosion of just things happening. And I know that the narrative is still just picking up right now. We really haven't gotten into the meat of this final installment, and already I'm blown away by what she's doing. And if this is as good as I'm thinking it's going to be, this will be in probably my top 10 series when it's done. I'm not fully sure about that, but I'll have to see what my emotional payoff is when I'm done. But it's really, really good. This book is if this continues, this is easily a 5 out of 5 stars. This will be one of the best books I've read this entire year, if it continues to be this good, and if the payoff is as fantastic as I've heard it is, because I read a lot of reviews of books before I pick them up, and people say that this is a fantastic final installment. Which, on that note, this is really niche, okay? If you're plugged into BookTube at all, or if you use Goodreads, there's this guy, Patrick Leo. He's my favorite BookTube creator, and I read all of his Goodreads reviews. I think he's extremely insightful, very well-spoken, I guess is the phrase. He's very articulate. He knows how to describe emotions and thoughts that I have while reading a book, and he just conveys them super well. So I really like his reviews because of that, because sometimes I have trouble being what did I actually like about this book? And that's kind of part of what I'm doing here on the podcast, but he's really good at it. And he loved the Greenbone Saga. It's his content that actually got me into it. He found one of my TikToks and he commented on it, and that was so cool to see. I was really happy about that, because he's one of the reasons that I started doing this, and that was really cool to see. But anyways, if you're not reading the Greenbone Saga, if you have it on your TBR, you should do it, man. I am loving it. But here's the thing. I have to finish this book in the next week. I have to finish it, because on the 25th, a week from today, I will be posting my podcast in the morning, and then I'm going directly to the bookstore. You know why? I'll give you 3 seconds to guess why. 1, 2, 3. It's because the new Red Rising comes out. I don't know what that countdown was. It's not like you can hear me, or it's not like I can hear you, but it's because the new Red Rising book is coming out. And I have to be done with this book at that point, which, I mean, I have a week. I'm gonna finish it. I might actually have to draw it out a little bit. But on that note, I can draw it out because I need to finish House of Leaves. I desperately need to finish House of Leaves. I need to do it. It's been how long since I started it? It's been almost 3 weeks. And I've only posted 2 updates on the Patreon. I'm so sorry, patrons. I have been so scatterbrained the past couple weeks. This is a little bit more on the personal side of things. I'm gearing up for a move. I'm moving overseas to teach English, which is something I've done in the past, and I really want to do it again. I've been recently just not doing a whole lot, so this is going to be like my next step in life, and I've been super scatterbrained with content, and I haven't been posting on like YouTube very much in the past month or so, and I've been all over the place because I've been working on like getting my stuff together and getting over there. But once I'm actually over there, I think I'm gonna have a lot more of a set routine, and I'll probably be posting more. But that's in the future. That's like over a month from now when that'll be happening. But that's part of the reason that I've been so random and all over the place with posting, and part of the reason I haven't been reading House of Leaves is that I've just been not able to focus on more than like one book at a time, which normally I can read like 2 or 3 at a time, which is, I was, working full time this past year, I was reading like 3 books at a time. Weirdly, now that I have free time, it's like harder because I'm so all over the place. When I have structure, it's easier for me to read. So that's why the Patreon, I haven't been posting a whole lot. But I can make this book stretch for a week is where I was going with this. I can make Jade Legacy stretch for a week because I'm going to keep plugging away at House of Leaves. But once Lightbringer comes out, book 6 in the Red Rising, I mean, I'm dropping everything else. I will be reading that, and I will be reading it probably in the span of a few days. I don't know how long it is, but I will probably be doing very little but reading it. So I'm very, very excited for that. And you guys can expect several videos from me. I'll be talking about it on here. I'll be posting on TikTok about it. I might make a whole video about it. I love Red Rising. I'm so excited. And it's one of the first times in my entire life because I started only really heavily reading about a year ago. I mean, I was like a consistent reader before then, but I was reading like maybe 2 books a month at most, and that's if they were shorter and if I didn't really have anything else going on in life, I was typically averaging more like a book a month, which I considered to be a pretty good pace because I was ramping up towards it. And then this past year, I don't know, something just like flipped in my brain and I really got into it. I think it was discovering like BookTube and getting into that. I got all these recommendations, and just like hearing other people who were passionate about it talk made me just want to get into that passion even more because I loved reading. I just wasn't making enough time for it. So I only really got into it in the past year, which is why when I talk about a lot of the stuff I'm talking about, it's usually like the big name stuff. It's Brandon Sanderson, it's Joe Abercrombie, it's Robert Jordan, it's all the big names. That's because I'm still pretty early in my fantasy reading journey, and I have yet to branch out, which is, I think, part of the reason I'm loving the Greenbone Saga so much, because this is, I think this is like the second fantasy series I'm reading that's not written by just like a white man, which is really, it's a really refreshing perspective to be reading from, and I've been loving it because it doesn't feel like, someone's voice that I've heard before, so that's been really cool, but that's why I've been reading so much. And point is, I just went way off track. This is the first time that I have been like caught up on the zeitgeist when a big book release is coming out. So this is the first time, like Lightbringer coming out, book 6 in Red Rising. This is the first time I've been caught up on one of the major series when there's like a really exciting drop coming. So I'm excited to be in on that, to be in on the now, because I've just been playing catch up for so long, and I don't know, I'm looking forward to that, to being able to read it and post about it and have discussions with people who are also just experiencing it for the first time, that's really exciting for me. So I think that's going to be fun. I think that's going to be a really fun time so if you're not into Red Rising yet and you're just working your way up, you have that to look forward to. And if you are caught up, expect me to be talking your ear off. That's going to be happening. And that's a week from today. I will be going, I don't really know if thing is, my parents are going to buy it on Kindle because they're also reading it, but I want to own it. I have the rest of the books on my bookshelf. I want to own it. But I don't have any hardbacks of the other ones, and you have to buy it in hardback when it first comes out because that's the only version that's available. But I want to own it, so like I might just go buy it. I might just go buy it and just read it on hardback, which is not the end of the world. But very, 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 very excited for that because I love Red Rising, and like I said, I just want to be in on the now for the first time. But outside of reading news, I have been watching some stuff in the past week. I watched a show. I think I talked about this briefly last week. The Bear. It's not fantasy related at all. It's literally about dudes just working in a kitchen in Chicago. They just like own a restaurant, and it's not just that. I don't know how else to. How do I describe this show? Because that's not a very good way of like describing it. It's like this guy with really high anxiety, and who's he you know his past is he's got a strained relationship with his family, and this is the restaurant that his brother used to own, and his brother killed himself, so like now he's inherited this restaurant, but he used to work at like this super high class restaurant. He was working some Gordon Ramsay shit, and now he's working at this kind of rundown ramshackle sandwich shop essentially, and it's about his emotional journey of like coming to terms with his brother dying. It's not that though either. There's a lot. It's really good. I don't know how else to sell it to you. It's a really compelling drama. It's a really, really compelling familial drama, but it's not. Is it a familial drama? It's like somewhat a familial drama, but like it also really captures the anxiety of like working in a kitchen and working customer service. So that's my best pitch to you. I think it's great though. I watched the first season. I thought it was fantastic. I don't have access to the second season yet, so I am waiting to watch that. But in the meantime, I started watching an anime called Gurren Lagann. If you're a big anime fan, there's a decent chance you've seen this. Apparently, I'm behind on the times. All my friends, when I told them I was starting it, lost their shit because apparently they all watched it when they were younger, and I did not. So apparently, I'm out of the loop on that. But the first 2 episodes were good. They were good, but they were a little heavy on the fan service, which is an unfortunate side effect of a lot of anime, is that there's a lot of fan service. And I can't speak, as a One Piece fan, okay, the first half of One Piece, there's like no fan service. There's like a little bit, but like it's not in your face, and it's not like, it's not blatant. It's just like, oh, she's showing a lot of leg. Oh, so scandalous, The back half of One Piece, however, yeah, we don't have to talk about that. There's a lot of women in skimpy outfits when they don't need to be, and there's a lot of guys being creeps. But my issue with fan service in anime a lot of times is that that's kind of the whole character. It's just, oh, here's big boobies. That's the character. The big boobies, the character. That's the character. Where we no other personality traits, no agency, and her whole thing is that the guys are nervous around her. Or even worse, it's just like a 15-year-old girl and she's dressed like in a bikini 90% of the time, which is just, no, stop what you're doing, halt, cease activities, don't do that. But that's not the whole thing of Gurren Lagann. Gurren Lagann, if you haven't seen it, it's like mecha, but I honestly, the first 2 episodes haven't given me like a super good feel about what it's actually going to be about, because it's like, it starts off and people are like in space, but then like they go on, but then like the main character is like underground and he finds this mecha underground, and they've been told that like the surface world doesn't exist, and so then they break through to the surface world because it does exist, and there's like other mechas up there, and there's like a whole civilization, but it's like post-apocalyptic. I don't know. I honestly don't know, because 2 episodes hasn't been enough to like give me the full scope of what's going down, but it's like post-apocalyptic mecha anime, and that's probably the best way of describing it. It's fun so far, not knocking my socks off, but like I've needed a good anime to just kind of sink my teeth into. And actually, on that note, I started reading Vinland Saga. Finally! I said I was going to do that like months ago. I actually started reading it. I read the first volume. I have seen the first season of the anime, so like I already know this part of the story, so I've been able to just kind of fly through it. I know it's coming. I know what's going on, and I'm really enjoying it because it diverges. The anime diverges from the manga more than I thought. the story is still exactly the same, but the structure of the story is a lot different. In the manga, there's a lot of bouncing between timelines. The main character Thorfinn, it bounces between him being a small child and him being a teenager, whereas in the anime, it's linear. It follows him from being a child to being a teenager, and you see everything happen in chronological order. In the manga, that doesn't happen. It actually bounces between those two things, and that's been a refreshing way to intake the story, and I'd say that the pacing is a little bit better in the manga, and that's the case for a lot of adaptations. I don't think the pacing was bad in the anime by any means. I think it was good, and I think actually the anime does a fantastic job at adapting the source material, but this is just a clippier, faster way to get through that, because I really want to read Farmland, which is the second arc in Vinland Saga, or I think it's not the second arc, it's like the third or fourth, but it's what season 2 is covering, and I'm very, very excited to get to that because I've heard amazing things, and I'll probably end up watching the anime eventually, but I want to get this in manga format because I intend on fully catching up, and I don't want to watch the anime and then switch over. I'd rather just get the whole thing in manga format and then go back and watch it, so that's the plan there. And in non-TV/anime news, I watched a couple movies this week. I love giving you guys movie updates, even though these, again, are not fantasy. Well, one of them is fantasy adjacent. Palm Springs. If you haven't heard of Palm Springs, it's got Andy Samberg, and okay, you know what? I don't want to actually say what it's about. It's on Hulu. You should check it out. I don't want to say what it's about because I didn't know what it was about when I started it, and I was a little shocked when I found out what the premise was. How do I pitch this to you then without telling you what the premise is? It's not okay. It's a comedy. It's like a rom-com, sort of, a little bit, and it's following two people who are at a wedding in Arizona. I think they're in Arizona, and I can't say any more than that. And these two people meet each other at a wedding in Arizona. That's all I'll tell you. You should check it out. It's really good. It's got fantasy elements, which is, I think, a good enough of a little addition to keep you interested. But I greatly enjoyed it. It's a great movie. There's that, and then I watched a movie called Fresh, which was another movie that I did not know what it was about when I was going in, and it had a title sequence drop about 30 minutes in. And it changes everything. It changes the whole vibe of the movie. I love when movies hold off on a title sequence, when you spend 20, 30 minutes just watching the movie, and then boom, there's the title sequence. I love when they do that because if it's done right, it's so emphatic, and it's so fun. And usually a movie just starts off and they just drop the title right away. So I'm a sucker for when they switch things up and keep you on your toes. And Fresh was an example of that, where I thought I kind of knew where the movie was going somewhat, and then I didn't. I no longer knew where it was going, and it's a really disturbing movie in some ways. It's like a horror thriller. That's somewhat of a spoiler to tell you that, but it is like a horror thriller, and it's very weird. It's so hard to not spoil things that have premises like this, but anyways, two good movies that I watched. I think both of them are on Hulu. You should check them out. They're fun. If you have any way of watching them, I thought both of them were excellent. But that's about it for me for this week. I think I've covered pretty much every single piece of media that I've intaken, and this is one of my longer episodes. This is coming up on 30 minutes. Oh my god! But I hope you guys enjoyed listening to me ramble. I love doing these. I just love talking about everything that I've consumed. It's just fun to me. Anyways, next week, expect me to be talking about how excited I am for Lightbringer yet again, because I'll be going to the bookstore literally right afterwards. Expect me to give you the full updates on Jade Legacy and, whatever else that I decide to get through in this week. But until then, guys, I hope you're doing well. Thank you for listening, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.